Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a viral 20-minute script called The Price of Your Soul. We're going to unpack exactly how this fascinating piece of media builds its incredible rhetorical and theological arguments. It's a really powerful narrative, and we're going to break down exactly how it pulls you in. So let's jump right into the hook. The script starts by asking you to imagine gaining literally everything society tells us to chase, right? Immense wealth, international fame, unquestioned power. But then, bam, it hits you with a stark pivot. What if, in acquiring all of that, the whole shebang, you lost your soul? It's this massive rhetorical hook designed to totally destabilize our modern definitions of success. And this whole premise, it's actually built on a single Bible verse. The text claims this specific verse has, historically speaking, terrified kings and transformed millions. Mark chapter 8, verse 36. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? According to the source material, this isn't just some nice philosophical thought experiment. No, it's an absolute ultimatum. The script uses this quote as the anchor for literally everything that follows, asserting that this one sentence forces every single human being to confront what actually matters in life.
Section 1. The illusion of worldly success. Okay, to build its case, the script tackles what it calls the world's biggest lie, that constant societal push to just get more. It sets up this brilliant contrast between temporary pursuits, wealth, social media clout, all that stuff, and the eternal nature of the human soul. The core argument here is that people routinely destroy their own inner peace just to accumulate temporary things. It creates this tragic irony where, yeah, you can totally win the game of earthly life, but still lose out eternally. To prove this point, that success without God leaves you spiritually starving, the script brings in a historical case study, King Solomon. Now, by some modern historical estimates, this guy's wealth would have surpassed $2 trillion. $2 trillion! He had unimaginable gold, massive armies, the works. But he still felt deeply empty. Actually, after experiencing literally every earthly pleasure, his ultimate conclusion was just staggering. Everything is meaningless. The script uses Solomon's profound sense of emptiness to argue that millions of people today are living the exact same way. We're smiling for the public, sure, but we're deeply broken in private because wealth simply cannot fill the human soul.
Moving on to Section 2. Two destinies intertwined.
Here, the narrative leans on a very famous parable told by Jesus to really drive this spiritual reality home. It's about two contrasting figures. On one hand, you have a rich man living in extreme luxury who totally ignores a poor beggar named Lazarus sitting right outside his gate. But then, the great equalizer happens, doesn't it? They both die, and suddenly their realities are completely inverted. Lazarus enters into eternal comfort, while the rich man enters eternal torment. The text highlights this terrifying realization for the rich man. For the very first time in his existence, his money and his high status meant absolutely nothing. The overarching warning the source material gives us here is that humans tragically spend all of their time preparing for a temporary life on Earth while entirely ignoring what comes next. The script emphasizes that the rich man's fatal flaw wasn't necessarily just that he had money. His flaw was his total lack of preparation. He had prepped exclusively for a life that inevitably ends. The text underlines this with a pretty stark reality check, suggesting that ignoring this mathematical and spiritual truth that eternity is longer than we can imagine is humanity's greatest blind spot.
Section 3. Why we avoid the truth.
So if the stakes are really eternally high, the script asks a fair question. Why do we actively avoid thinking about it? The text brilliantly connects ancient theology directly to our modern habits. It points out that, let's be honest, it is way easier to scroll endlessly online than to sit and face uncomfortable spiritual truths. The script makes this fascinating observation. Most people today spend far more time protecting their smartphones than their own souls. Crazy, right? We chase entertainment and prioritize our public image because the truth of eternity is simply too uncomfortable to sit with in silence. It even notes that celebrities with millions of followers frequently admit to feeling completely empty inside. The script defines this avoidance as an active spiritual war for our attention. It calls it the invisible battle. It argues that our constant state of distraction isn't just some accident of the digital age. It's actually by design. The source material posits that there is an enemy whose entire overarching strategy is just to keep you too busy to think about God, to keep you too occupied to prepare for eternity. Basically, by keeping our eyes glued to the temporary, we remain completely blind to the eternal.
Section 4. The Path to Redemption.
Now, the crucial point here is that the script doesn't just leave you with this terrifying warning. It actually pivots to a theological solution. The narrative explains that Jesus didn't speak that intense verse in Mark 8:36 just to condemn humanity, but to save it. It outlines the core Christian gospel, how Jesus came down to heal and love the rejected, how he went willingly to the cross, how he carried humanity's sin upon himself, and how his resurrection ultimately opened a pathway back to God.
The text strongly emphasizes that because of this ultimate sacrifice, no sinner is too far gone. Absolutely no person is too broken to be saved. This really serves as the script's emotional turning point. After spending the whole first half establishing the absolute hopelessness of a world without God, it offers a total reset. It reassures the viewer that regardless of your past, your brokenness, or how long you've chased temporary worldly success, redemption is fully accessible because of what Jesus accomplished.
Section 5. The Final Ultimatum. In its final moments, the author strips away all the superficiality. They clarify that at the end of life, outward religious appearances, organized religion or managing a pious public image, are entirely dismissed. None of that matters. The only thing the text claims will matter is having a real, authentic relationship with Jesus Christ.
To back this up, the script lists tangible, historical proof. It talks about how history is absolutely filled with radically transformed lives. We're talking criminals who became pastors, addicts who finally found freedom, and deeply broken people who discovered unshakable hope. And the script stresses a key point. These transformations didn't happen because these individuals suddenly became perfect. Nope. They happened because they surrendered. Just one prayer of surrender changed their entire future. It's a very structured rhetorical argument meant to show the immediate, life-altering power of a single decision. And so, the script ends exactly where it began, with a piercing question that distills its entire 20-minute message down to one thought. What are you truly living for? It's a profound ultimatum, isn't it? It challenges the viewer to consider if they are trading their eternal soul for temporary earthly gains. Whether you personally agree with the theology or not, it is undeniably an incredibly effective piece of rhetorical storytelling. So as we wrap up this explainer, look at your